My daughter abandoned me when I was dying. Now she wants my inheritance. I never thought I'd end up writing something like this. But I've kept this story buried in my heart for too long, and I need to let it out. Maybe it'll help someone. Maybe it'll just help me breathe a little easier. Either way, here it is. The truth. My truth. My name is Elise. I'm 58 now. And once upon a time, I had a family. Not a perfect one, no. But it was mine. I met Daniel when I was 24. He was charming in that classic boy next door way. Clean cut, ambitious, a little cocky but funny. We dated for 2 years before we got married, and by the time I was 28, I gave birth to our daughter, Amy. She was my whole world. I quit my job to raise her. Every bottle, every step, every scraped knee. I was there. Daniel, for all his strengths, was distant. He worked a lot, traveled more than most husbands should, but I made excuses. I wanted to believe he was doing it for us. I gave my all to our home, to my daughter. I cooked, cleaned, volunteered at Amara's school, organized her birthday parties down to the last sprinkle on her cake. I thought if I just poured enough love into my family, we'd always be okay. But life doesn't work that way. When I was 43, I got sick. Very sick. At first, I thought it was just exhaustion. I'd get dizzy, nauseous, tired in ways I couldn't explain. Then came the fainting spells. Then the hospital visits. After months of tests and uncertainty, the doctors gave me an answer. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I remember that day like it was yesterday. Everything went cold. I could see the doctor's mouth moving, but I couldn't hear the words. Only Daniel's sharp intake of breath beside me. Amy was 15 then, old enough to understand, young enough to believe that moms are invincible. I started treatment immediately, chemo, then surgery, then more chemo. My hair fell out. My skin turned gray. I lost weight, couldn't keep food down, and I spent more time in a hospital bed than I did at home. I became a ghost in my own life, and that's when Daniel started changing. At first, it was subtle. Missed appointments, delayed hospital visits. He'd get caught up at work, or have to take a client call. Then he stopped sleeping at the hospital altogether. When I was home, he'd avoid me. Act like I wasn't even there unless he had to be. Sometimes I'd catch him staring at me with this look. Not of pity, not of sadness, but inconvenience. I try not to think much of it. I told myself he was coping in his own way. Then one day, while I was recovering from my 3rd round of treatment, he sat me down. His voice was cold, practiced. He said he wanted a divorce. I can't do this anymore, Elise, he said. It's too much. It's draining me. This waiting for you to die. I need to live. I need to breathe. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was the one dying, and he wanted out. Like I was a lease he could cancel. I begged him to wait, to think. I reminded him of Amara, of our life, but he didn't care. He said he was already seeing someone, that he'd been seeing her for months. And worse, he wanted custody of Amara. She's safer with me, he said. She shouldn't have to watch you waste away. I laughed through my tears. You think she'll choose you over me? But she did. When the papers were filed, Daniel somehow spun the narrative in his favor. Claimed I was unstable, unfit to care for her due to my health. His lawyers tore through my medical records like vultures. I didn't have the strength or money to fight it the way I wanted. And when the judge asked Amy where she wanted to stay, she said, with Dad. No hesitation. I still don't know if Daniel manipulated her, or if she truly believed I was a burden. Either way, the result was the same. My daughter, my sweet girl who used to braid my hair and sleep beside me during thunderstorms, walked out of my life without looking back. They left me with nothing. No home, no child, no husband, no security. I was sent to hospice care. I was supposed to die. But life, in its strange, ironic way, had other plans. I stabilized. The chemo started working. My tumors shrank. The doctors were stunned. One called it a medical anomaly. Another said I was a miracle. Slowly, I gained strength. My hair grew back. My skin warmed. I started walking again, then jogging, then living. Within 2 years, I was in remission. No one came to visit. Not Daniel. Not Amy. They had moved to a different state by then. I sent letters. Tried calling. I left voicemails on Amy's birthday every year for 5 years. Not once did I get a reply. So I stopped waiting. I started rebuilding. I got a small apartment, a job at a library, and for the first time in decades, I found peace. Real, honest peace. And then I met Lila. She was 5 when we met. Her foster mother brought her into the library every Tuesday for story time. Lila had these big, curious eyes and a laugh that felt like sunlight, but she was quiet around the other kids, always kept to herself. One afternoon, her foster mother pulled me aside and said Lila had grown attached to me. Asked if I'd be willing to spend time with her one-on-one. We started going on weekend walks, then art museums, then I began helping her with reading and homework. I found out she had been in the system since birth. No known relatives. Her file was filled with words like abandonment, emotional trauma, unfit guardianship. I knew that file too well. I adopted Lila when she was 7. And just like that, I was a mother again. We built a life together. She called me mom without hesitation. I taught her to ride a bike, bake cookies, speak French, write poetry. We traveled together, laughed together, healed together. I told her about my past, not all of it, but enough to explain the scars. She told me she'd never leave me, and I believed her. Years passed. Lila turned 17, and one summer morning, as we were planting sunflowers in our backyard, I heard a knock on the door. And there she was, Amy. She looked so much like me now. It was like staring into a mirror, except the reflection held a lifetime of choices I never made. She hugged me like nothing had happened, like 15 years hadn't passed in silence. Mom, she said breathlessly, I'm so glad you're alive. She didn't even ask how I was. Turns out, Daniel had passed away recently, heart attack, and Amy, his sole heir, had been sorting through old documents. She found out I wasn't dead. She found out I'd survived. And more importantly, she found out I now owned 3 properties, a sizable retirement fund, and a life insurance policy I had shifted to Lila's name. She didn't waste time. I just think, since I'm your real daughter, she began slowly, it makes sense for me to be part of the will. Lila's great, but she's not, Blood. That word tasted sour. Blood. Where was blood when I was in hospice, begging to see my child one last time? Where was blood when I sent birthday cards and never got a reply? When I clawed my way out of death alone, I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just nodded and told her to come back next weekend for lunch. That I'd think about it. She showed up, and so did a lawyer. She wasn't subtle. I invited them both inside, sat them at the table. Then I brought Lila in and handed her a box. She opened it and pulled out a copy of my will, officially notarized, with the estate fully transferred to her name. I looked Amara in the eyes and said, You abandoned me when I was dying. Lila saved me by choosing me when she had nothing to gain. She is my daughter now. You are a stranger. Amy's face twisted with shock, then fury, then something like desperation. But I was a kid, she cried. Dad made me. I didn't know better. I nodded. And now you're an adult. But you still didn't come here to apologize. You came to collect. Her lawyer tried to interject, saying something about rights and inheritance claims, but I stood up and walked them to the door. I died once, I said. That version of me, the woman you left behind, she's gone. And so is the mother you think you're entitled to. And I shut the door. Lila was quiet after they left. I asked if she was okay. She nodded and hugged me. Just promise me I'll never have to leave, she whispered. You'll never have to leave, I said. You're my daughter. Not by blood. By choice. I'm still alive. Still here. And sometimes I think back to that moment in the hospital when I thought it was the end. Funny how life circles back. Funny how death didn't kill me, but abandonment almost did. In the end, the people who choose you, they're the ones who matter. And love, real love, isn't measured by bloodlines or DNA or who shares your last name. It's measured by who shows up when it's hard, who stays when it's dark,